Will SIR be carried out in the rest of the country? How will it be carried out? Will the same order be applied to the rest of the country? Will the same mistakes be made? In one single stroke, SIR has reduced the completeness of electoral rolls by as much as 7%. And we are looking at something like 80 lakh missing voters in Bihar. Are women represented in the same proportion as they should be in the population? Has it become better? Has it become worse? And the answer is SIR has actually worsened an already bad situation. On both counts, we have reasons to believe that there has been an excess exclusion of Muslims, which roughly speaking accounts to about 6 lakh Muslims being deleted, more than they should have been deleted. You cannot quite call it purification. Election Commission is itself the umpire. They are the umpire. They are also the third umpire, unless the Supreme Court steps in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Deshkaal with Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra ji, as always, thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us. Yogendra sir wrote what could possibly be the concluding piece of the SIR saga or his SIR series. Perhaps it's not, and that's probably my first question this week. And it was what he called a final audit of the SIR, and it made for some pretty sad reading, he argues, along with his co-author Rahul Shastri. So, Yogendra ji, I guess the first question is this even the last chapter, or is there more to come?
It may be the concluding chapter for Bihar, at least the data part of it, because the elections have been announced and pretty much little can change thereafter unless the Supreme Court comes out with a very, very different kind of a verdict. Very rarely does the court intervene once the elections are announced. So in a sense, the voters list have been finalized, at least for purposes of auditing of the quantitative part of it, what happened in the voters list in Bihar. That part has kind of concluded. But the bigger question remains. The bigger question is, will SIR be carried out in the rest of the country? How would it be carried out? Will the same order be applied to the rest of the country? Will the same mistakes be made? And really, the principal purpose behind writing this article was to do an audit, not only to see what happened in Bihar, but actually to see why something like this may not be a great idea to carry it out in the rest of the country. So the lessons for the rest of the country is really what we wanted to focus on.
So, sir, then let's dive right into that. The readers will know that this week's piece had two very comprehensive graphs, which had a lot of important data whose messages were quite revealing in themselves. Yogendra ji, if you could illustrate some of that data about missing voters, men, women proportion, those were very important data points from your own studying and analysis. So if you could detail that out for the viewers.
You know, all over the world, the quality of voters list, electoral rolls, or registration as it is called in many parts of the world, is judged on the basis of three criteria. One is completeness, which is to say, is the size of your electorate about the same as it should be, the size of your adult population. Second is equity. Is each group being represented in the same proportion as they are in the population? And third is accuracy. Are the names in the voters list the kind of name there should be? Is there more, are there junk information? Is there complete information? And so on and so forth, just the accuracy part of it. And in this article, we judge it on all these three counts. The first is completeness, which is to say, we know our adult population. Is the voters list roughly in the same proportion as the adult population? And that's what the graphic that you mentioned does. This graphic, which is the very first graphic of the article, tells you that. Basically, we are trying to look at the total adult population of Bihar. Now you would wonder, where does that come from? How do we know that? That fortunately is the Government of India's official estimates. Government of India had a technical team, and the science of population studies is very, very advanced. So we have exact estimate for each state, for each year, for each population group. So what is the population of Bihar in the month of September, if you asked me? The answer, according to Government of India's own estimate, and incidentally, these are the estimates used by the Election Commission itself all over these years. So the answer is 8 crore 22 lakhs. So how many people should be on the electoral rolls of Bihar if it's a perfect electoral roll? The answer is 8 crore 22 lakhs. Now, how many do we have? Now, that's the real story. When the SIR exercise started, Bihar had 7 crore 89 lakh people on its electoral roll. So, in a perfect revision, what should happen? From 7.89, it should go up to as close to 8.22 as possible. What has happened in reality? From 789, it has come down to 742. What is the gap? The gap is 80 lakhs. And that's what this figure depicts. The blue uh, bars show that initially, in the initial 2 or 3 years, Bihar had more voters than the population. So the gap is in negative. Then it was corrected. So as the red line comes down, the blue bars go up. And you can see the most dramatic thing is the steep fall thereafter and the steep rise of the blue bar. This is SIR. In one single stroke, SIR has reduced the completeness of electoral rolls by as much as 7%. And we are looking at something like 80 lakh missing voters in Bihar. This is not an estimate. This is not an accusation. This is not an interpretation. These are two facts projected by the government of India. And that, to my mind, is very shocking because, to at least as far as I can recall, no major state of India has ever had an adult population and voter ratio which is only 90%, which is what it has become in Bihar. So that's the first part, assessment about the completeness. Second is about equity. And on equity, the principle, the first and foremost concern should be gender equity. You know, are women represented in the same proportion as they should be in the population? Has it become better? Has it become worse? And the answer is SIR has actually worsened an already bad situation. Now, look at the second graphic. The blue line represents the gender ratio in Bihar's population, which, as you can see, is very slowly but steadily rising. Fortunately, the good news is the gender ratio of Bihar is improving. The red line is the proportion of women in the voters list, which you can see is actually rising at a faster speed, closing up with the blue line, and then suddenly collapsing at the end. Now, that sudden collapse is SIR. And the bars that you see are the number of missing women. As the gap between the red and the blue line becomes narrow, the bar goes down. And as you can see towards the end, as the gap once again opens up, the bar becomes bigger. And this is in numbers. Bihar used to have a gap. This gap used to account for something like 18 to 20 lakh women. But over the years, it came down. And in January this year, the gap was only 7 lakh women, which is to say we should have had 7 lakh more women in Bihar than we had. And thanks to SIR, the 7 lakh has now again become 16 lakh. In one single stroke, SIR has wiped out the gains of gender equity of 1 decade. You call it equity? Well, the other thing for which we don't have a graphic here officially is because there is no official statistics on that, which is the impact of SIR on Muslims. Now, obviously, the figures for Muslims are not released. Figures for Dalits are not released. Figures for Yadavs or Brahmins, for that matter, are not released by Election Commission of India. However, there are softwares that recognize names. Now, while it's very hard to separate Hindu communities by names or castes, because not everyone adds their caste name, a Yadav could call himself Yadav or Rai or Mandal or Yadav or Ahir or nothing. So it's very hard to get the name. But in the case of Muslim names, Hindu Muslim names, it's very easy for the software to spot it. So we use that software to ask, okay, Bihar, we all know that 65 lakh voters were deleted or not included in the draft electoral rolls. Were Muslims disproportionately excluded? That was the question we asked. And the answer is yes. Bihar Muslim population is about 17%. According to census, a little less than 17. According to the latest caste census, a little more than 17, but let's say around 17%. Among the 65 lakh voters who were excluded in the draft, Muslims are nearly 25%, 7 or 8% more than they should have been. That's the excess exclusion. Then we looked at the tiny figure of the 3.66 lakh Muslims, 3.66 lakh voters who have been deleted after the draft list, for which the data has come only recently. And we asked the same questions. Are Muslims overrepresented in this? The answer is yes, once again. Instead of 17%, Muslims constitute nearly 33% among these people who have been deleted. So, on both counts, we have reasons to believe that there has been an excess exclusion of Muslims, which roughly speaking accounts to about 6 lakh Muslims being deleted, more than they should have been deleted. So, yes, so equity also, in equity terms also, things have got worse. And that finally leaves the last concern, which is accuracy. Now, our CEC is very fond of using beautiful words like purification. After 20 years, we have purified electoral rolls. So we did a simple check on the new voters list. Okay, there are standard kind of errors that you find in electoral rolls. Have those errors gone down? For example, have duplicate votes been reduced or have duplicate votes been eliminated? Same name, same father's name, and we said 100% matching. Same name, same father's name, same education, same age, same gender, same booth, everything same. There are more than 5 lakh voters in that category. And if you use a slightly more relaxed criteria of matching, then there are 14 lakhs or more. So does it look like purification? Another simple thing is to check, okay, how many houses do not have any number or have very junk number or, numbers that should not be the case. That runs into lakhs. Election Commission has another red flag of its own. How many households have 10 electors or more? Election Commission itself says, if you find more than 10 people in one address, 10 voters in one address, something shady about it, go and physically verify it. Election Commission's own criteria. How many houses do we have? 21 lakh houses of that kind, where more than 3 crore voters live. This violates Election Commission's own norms about, what is shady. I'm not saying all these are fake voters. All I'm saying is, if you have an exercise at the end of which you have 21 lakh houses, which are above your own norm, you cannot quite call it purification. And then we get into thousands of names which are junk names or gibberish names. Names can be kek, name can be dash, 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 dash. These things run into tens of thousands. So the simple point is that this does not look like accurate either. So on all the 3 counts, completeness, equity, and accuracy, the audit of the latest voters list gives very sad results.
So in that case, while I understand the first two, the third one, I mean, if your data, if your analysis shows this, and then journalists, I'm sure, will find it as well. Isn't the Election Commission going to go ahead and rectify that then? These are big numbers, or will they just, the process is done and now we go to vote? That's it. Because these irregularities should get fixed.
Absolutely. And if we can find it out, and please remember, what does our data team have to do to find it out? They have uploaded the data, which is not in a machine readable form. These are images. So our team has to take images. Those images have to be converted into something else, which then has to be parsed, which has to be converted into a data file. Finally, it comes to Excel after 3-4 steps. Then we analyze those Excel files. Remember, the Election Commission already has those Excel files. So if our team can find it, I mean, for Election Commission, it should be a job of 2 minutes. The question, and Election Commission had 2 months to check it out. They had draft rolls on the 1st of August. On the 1st of September, they had draft rolls. So they had 1 full month to check these things. If my team can check it in 5 days, surely the Election Commission could do a better job of it. Do they have protocols to check it? Funnily, yes, of course, they have protocols for this. In 2016, the Election Commission came up with something called National Electoral Purification Program of NERP, where they have developed detailed protocols of how IT units should check this, how it should be corrected, how there should be a field verification. My question is, why didn't the Election Commission do it? They know it, they could do it. You have a harder question for me. You're saying, will something happen now? The trouble is that Election Commission is itself the umpire. They are the umpire. They are also the third umpire, unless the Supreme Court steps in. So unless the Supreme Court now says, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? How can you hold election on electoral rolls which are so defective? Well, nothing else can be done. Otherwise, Election Commission is a lord and master. And that is the larger crisis towards which we are headed. So we have an umpire who basically holds a press conference during lunch break and tea break and says, I did a great job, isn't it? And everyone claps and say, wonderful, great job, sir, etc. And he goes back to the field and once again does what he wants to do. So what do you do? That's the larger problem we are into. But the larger question is, the issue that we are facing is that, I mean, and mind you, I'm not saying electoral rolls were perfect before this. No, electoral rolls had problems. These need to be revised. Election Commission has over the years developed protocols for revising this. Instead of doing that routine, boring, but very critical job, Election Commission comes up with something big, fancy, jazzy, and completely irrelevant and not required, which is more of a problem than the solution, and doesn't attend to the simple things that needed to be attended to. That is what is happening.
Well, in that case, I guess the final question for this interview, and I don't know, perhaps next week something will happen which will force you to write on SIR again. But where does this leave us then, especially with respect to the planned nationwide SIR? Because already some chatter about it has started in some states like Manipur, for instance. And then in the next year, there are some critical elections coming up. In Bengal, the ruling government has been trying very hard to win Bengal. We all know this. Tamil Nadu as well. So I don't know. Are you ready to go back to court? Are you expecting the next year to be a difficult one in this SIR election context?
Look, the Election Commission has officially announced that they are going to carry out SIR in the rest of the country. It's an official order. So you get some news from Manipur today, some from Delhi tomorrow. But basically, it's an all India order. It's going to happen. The question is, will it happen in the same manner and carry the same problems as this one does? My broad conclusions are the following. That basically there are three problems in this SIR. Once again, I would reiterate, doing cleaning of electoral rolls is the right of the Election Commission. It is the duty of Election Commission. No one should object to a revision of polls, of a voters list. And I would not object if it is an intensive, more than normal revision. If it's an intensive revision, I would welcome it. The problem is not with that. The problem is with three things which have been introduced for the first time by the Election Commission under the SIR. Number one, the problem is shifting of onus from the Election Commission to the voter. You fill the enumeration form. If you don't submit it by X date, what can I do? Your name will be deleted. This is how 65 lakh were deleted. So that's the first problem. Second is documentation. Everyone must submit some papers. Finally, it turned out that Election Commission itself, if Election Commission had actually seriously and rigorously carried out its own rules, then I can tell you the number would not have been just 65 lakhs or 47 lakhs. The number would have been 2 crore or more. Election Commission developed cold feet, and Election Commission towards the end was trying desperately to ensure, violating its own rules to ensure that people are not deleted. But if you do so, the second thing is requirement of documents. asking every Indian to prove that you are eligible to be a voter. This is a problem. This has never happened in the history of our country because we are demanding papers from people to whom we have never given those papers. And number three is checking of citizenship. Now, citizenship ought to be checked by the ministry, by the government, by the Home Ministry. And if the Home Ministry says Mr. X is not a citizen, Mr. X should go out of the list. But it has been an established convention and a ruling of the famous ruling of the Supreme Court in the Lal Babu Hussain case that it is not the job of the Election Commission to check people's citizenship. That is also being violated. So these are, so to my mind, the lessons from the audit that we have carried out is the following. Do intensive revision, but please do not ask people to provide enumeration forms. You fill the enumeration form. Your BLO should go home to home. They can fill the enumeration form. That's not a problem. Number two, do not ask everyone to give documents. If you have suspicion about someone, go ahead, ask them for papers, but only if you have good reasons to have suspicion or if there is an objection. And number three, citizenship should be, the presumption should be that of citizenship rather than non-citizenship. If you have, once again, any serious objection, doubts about someone not being a citizen, do check it out, but otherwise not. These are the three things. And if these things are not corrected, and if the SIR in its present form is taken to the rest of the country, we are looking at problem after problem after problem. We are looking at disenfranchisement of not just millions, it could be run into crores of Indians who would face disenfranchisement.
Well, as we prepare for that disturbing prospect for the coming months, I think Yogendraji's column is one to track for all our viewers and readers of the Indian Express. Yadav sir, thank you so much, as always, for giving us time. And we will look forward to your next columns. Readers, those who haven't, please check out sir's recent column. This is the one that came out on Tuesday's pages, the concluding chapter of SIR, so to speak. Unless something big happens. We will catch Yogendra sir again next week. Till then, like, share, subscribe to the Indian Express, and yeah, take care. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.